I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else, really. Now that nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony.
The First Lady yesterday delivering a very different message yesterday from what we heard from President Trump back in February when he told reporters it's time to move on from the Epstein files.
That sort of came out of nowhere, didn't it?
It seemed to. The surprise, seemingly impromptu appearance by the First Lady was just part of a barrage of bad news for the president throughout the day. Iran says the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, and it is demanding tolls for ships that pass through. That move is in response to Israel launching deadly strikes on Lebanon, which Iran maintains violated terms of the ceasefire agreement.
And those deadly strikes continued through the night.
Here at home, new data released yesterday showed the U.S. economy grew at a slower pace in the fourth quarter than previously estimated. And there is more. Let's, though, start with the Melania news. Let's bring in the co-host of The Weekend and a Washington reporter for MS Now, Jackie Alemany, who did way too early for us. But, Jackie, you were working overtime. You spoke with the president right after the First Lady's statement yesterday. What did he tell you?
Yeah, Mika, I gave him a ring quickly before my hit. Not sure if he would pick up or not because he was in the middle of meetings. He did, in fact, pick up. I asked him if he was aware of the substance of Melania Trump's statement prior to her delivering it. He said he didn't know anything about it. It was on the schedule the day before, but it was very cryptically noted. There wasn't any information about what she would be saying. The president, though, did obviously catch what she said after the fact. And before he hung up, he said he was in the middle of a meeting on the war in Iran. He added that she didn't know him, referring to Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, here's more of the First Lady's rare public statement yesterday. And I mean, as we go into this statement, the idea that she did not know him.
And that Trump did not know she was doing this press conference?
And that she had no relation. It was just beyond bizarre. And all of the reporting is that the people that were in the White House briefing room yesterday were just absolutely stunned in part that it came out of nowhere. And secondly, that she would actually pretend that she didn't know who he was, or that she had no relationship with him, or they had no close relationship with him. Here's more of what she said yesterday.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell.
Melania addressed a 2002 email exchange with Maxwell, included in the Epstein files, which she praised a magazine story about Epstein, complimented Maxwell's photo, and signed off, quote, "Love Melania." The First Lady said her email, quote, "cannot be categorized as anything more than a casual correspondence."
That is quite casual. Actually, it's not. Doesn't sound casual. And again, everybody's waiting for another shoe to drop. I don't know if it will or not. But again, the timing of that was so strange, especially bringing up something that obviously the president doesn't want brought up, and calling for hearings. That's just the opposite of what the president has been talking about for months. Now,